The new head of the DC Cinematic Universe, James Gunn, announced that he's open to moving forward with actor Ezra Miller as the Flash and completely committed to supporting the troubled actor's mental health treatment. Miller has faced several controversial allegations and indeed criminal charges, including but not limited to disorderly conduct, assault, harassment, grooming minors, and felony burglary. And I know some liberals in the audience might say that grooming is always just a smear, but it was kind of like he was with an underage person, and it was very, very sketchy. A lot sketchy going on there. I saw a lot of speculation online that the reason he's being handled with kid gloves, or like he's still acceptable, is that he's non-binary, he's gender fluid, and that's why they're like he's getting off without he's not being canceled for what would have canceled a cis non.
I mean, it's interesting because there are people like, let's say, Kevin Spacey, who, when similar kinds of allegations came out about sexual impropriety, et cetera, many people perceived his subsequent coming out as an effort to insulate himself from some of that criticism.
Didn't he just win in court, though?
Kevin Spacey?
Yeah.
I'm not
against
sure.
Anthony Rapp, I thought.
But the argument was...
The jury finds Kevin Spacey didn't molest actor Anthony Rapp.
Sure. I mean, it wasn't just about one person, the allegations against Kevin.
Were there other ones?
The point is that when he was when these allegations were against him, that people felt that the timing of his coming out was intended to insulate himself from those criticisms, and it seemed not to work. I mean, he was booted from the Frank Underwood show.
Yeah, House of Cards.
Not called that. The House of Cards. Thank you. And I at least haven't really seen him in anything since.
No, yeah, it totally worked, but that was at the fever pitch of Me Too.
I don't know.
But no, I see what you're saying, and that's what people are wondering: is he getting away with it this time? They're open to working with him.
And this also does feel like a little bit of a test balloon. Like, is it just the media? Is it just these production companies saying, well, we could continue to work with Ezra. What do you guys feel about it? And if there's enough public backlash, they won't. If there is, there is. I think another issue is
he faced actual criminal charges, not just like he said something controversial.
Sure.
Which sometimes gets people, they're out.
But they're also, I wonder also if the fact that they're very talented has something to do with it. People have found Ezra's performances in movies like We Need to Talk About Kevin to be so compelling. He was they were a little bit of an ingenue child actor, prodigy type, and was, I think, very good as the Flash. And it shouldn't obviously come down to that kind of assessment, but I wonder if that's also what's going on here.
I mean, they have the same parent company, Disney. No, I'm sorry. Now I'm crossing universes. Oh no, you're gonna come after me. Disney. I was thinking of the getting rid of Gina Carano, who was in The Mandalorian, just over things she had said on Twitter that were kind of right wingy, and that was all there was to it. And she was gone. And now, okay, it's a different. I just got my DC and Marvel's swapped. I'm a big fan of Marvel. This is DC.
So in the Marvel universe, they certainly have switched out people, not because of controversy, just because, I mean, the famous Terrence Howard, Don Cheadle flip in the Iron Man movies, people don't even remember that Terrence Howard was even in these movies. There's certainly not any resemblance between Terrence Howard and Don Cheadle in Franchise Survive. I mean, that's
the DC universe has had even more cast, has been inconsistent to a greater degree because people didn't like the whole Justice League put together movie as much. Remember the whole Snyder released the Snyder Cut thing. Snyder Cut is better. I think it's still not a fantastic
It was better.
movie. I liked the first Wonder Woman movie. The second one was terrible.
It was bad.
And Henry Cavill, who's Superman, they were supposed to be bringing him back as Superman, and I believe he left The Witcher, which he's really good in order to be Superman again, and then they decided not to use him as Superman, which I think is disappointing to me. I thought he was a good Superman. Ben Affleck as Batman, less sold.
So what do you make of the choice to, let's say, cut Henry Cavill?
Yeah, I don't know.
Do they even have a replacement for him yet?
No, they just want to go in a different direction, I guess. But they don't want to go in a different direction necessarily with Ezra Miller, even though he's very up to all sorts of stuff. Now, they also defended... So Zachary Levi, he is the actor who's Shazam, which is also in the DC universe. He said something on Twitter about, or retweeted something about his Pfizer bad and like agreeing with it, so saying something kind of contrarian there. And I was seeing people online being like, "Oh no, he's right wing. Oh, you can't do that."
So this is from a Daily Beast report. Mini
Of course,
Shazam.
the Daily Beast is trying to cancel him. That's the most Daily Beast thing to do.
Well, I just clicked the first. Many people had written this up. But Mini Shazam fans, they say, were shocked this weekend when Zachary Levi, who stars in the popular DC superhero franchise, said he was, quote, in, quote, hardcore agreement that COVID-19 vaccine manufacturer Pfizer is a real danger to the world. Levi followed up his tweet by doubling down and sharing a link to a justice.gov press release about Pfizer paying $2.3 billion as part of a fraud settlement back in 2009, saying, quote, just one example of what I'm referring to.
Guess you're not allowed to believe that medical fraud really exists anymore and be in good standing with liberal Hollywood audiences.
Yeah, I mean, the idea that
I guess
Pfizer,
you and I will never get our starring roles in the DCU.
Look, I even
when the fans find out about our Pfizer opinions.
Even long before back when I was a lawyer, I had some exposure to some cases involving pharmaceutical companies, overbilling practices, coercive practices, flying doctors out to Hawaii and giving them all of these kind of like non-cash forms of compensation to convince them to prescribe various drugs, emphasizing the difference between there are these recommendations versus what's actually like medically indicated, like a cut point versus a guideline, and pitching doctors on prescribing at higher rates by encouraging them to say, well, when it reaches this lower threshold of, let's say, cholesterol levels, go ahead and give them this drug when it's not necessarily medically indicated. All of this stuff is rampant, and they are so good at gaming the court system. That it is a little surprising to me that there hasn't been more mainstream criticism of these institutions who are friends to nobody except for their bottom line. And so, yeah, if we're at a place, I don't know what the rest of this guy's beliefs are, but if we're in a place we're saying Pfizer paying a multi-billion-dollar settlement for some exploitative practice means that you're an anti-vaxxer. If criticizing the pharmaceutical industry makes you an anti-vaxxer, then I hate to break it to folks, but there's about to be a lot more anti-vaxxers coming down the pike, and frankly, I might be one if that's how we're defining it.
I should mention, so James Gunn, who's now in charge of the DC universe, so he was canceled. So he's created films for both Marvel and DC. He created the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, but he was fired in between the second and the third one, or maybe between the first and the second one. So he was fired for being canceled because I think right-wing people dug up things he'd said on Twitter a long time ago that were like very dark jokes, bad jokes, and so he was actually fired. And then he made Suicide Squad, and then he got rehired to do Guardians of the Galaxy. So then he was canceled, he was uncanceled. Everyone I think admitted that it was stupid to fire him over these tweets. There was a whole protest about it. Some of the actors said they wouldn't do Guardians of the Galaxy again. Is any of this ringing a bell?
No, I'm reading about it now.
I didn't make this up, right? I'm pretty sure I wrote about it.
So, okay, I'm looking at a
Yeah, Disney fired him. So Disney, that's Marvel.
Ooh.
They were bad tweets, but...
I like it when little boys touch me in my silly place. Shh is one of them.
It was very bad jokes. Very, very bad. Very bad.
My new film, Jerk Loose, a small town where feeding off is illegal.
Oh, don't. All right, stop reading them.
Okay.
But obviously, he's not just tweeting out...
That one's about kids, too.
He's a pedophile.
There's lots of these about kids and young boys.
They were very bad.
I was trying to pick the ones that were less graphic, to be honest.
So I think it was Mike Cernovich who found these and highlighted them and was like, does Disney like employing this person?
I remember my first NAMBLA meeting.
Yeah, I mean, he's joking.
I mean, I know, but I'm looking at a dozen of these. It's just a weird thing to joke about a lot.
The internet was a weird place whenever this was, 2004.
Okay, but he's back, so I guess there's hope for Ezra Miller. When liberals say there's no such thing as being canceled,
but that's
I don't agree.
Point. So he had to sit out. He lost his role as the creator of these films for things he'd said that were very bad, whereas Ezra Miller is not losing anything yet for actual criminal conduct.
Well, we'll see. And
That's my point.
like I was saying,
Is
liberals,
it because of the gender fluidity? That's all.
Liberals say there's no such thing as being canceled, and I don't agree with that. But I do think that when you look at what it actually means to be canceled, it usually just means a brief hiatus away from your professional trajectory, and then you return. See, Louis C.K. is back. I'm not opining on the merit of it. Well, who knows what Kevin Spacey is up to? He was also an actor that was probably nearing the end of his kind of career prospects.
Louis C.K. is sort of back.
Louis C.K. is fully back.
Pretty
filling Madison
significant timeout.
Okay, he's back, filling Madison Square Garden. James Gunn is obviously back. You know, people are back. Jeffrey Toobin. I just was reminded of the extremely cringe reintroduction of him back to the, CNN audience, where they had to confront what he had done head on.
This whole segment of ours is very cringe now.
I hollered. I was screaming watching this clip back because it was so cringe.
Like, I can't watch, the Seinfeld guy, like Curb Your Enthusiasm, that kind of
Larry David.
I can't watch that.
Big fan. Love that
It
stuff.
makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah, my brother's like that.
Similarly, not tuning into CNN.
LOL. Well, look, people are back. Find the person who's permanently canceled. We'll see what happens to Ezra Miller. We'll have more Rising for you after this.